on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
gotta check it out.
he articulates it better than I can for sure. But basically painting is like it's you alone in a room.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like this absurd activity in a way when you think about it. It's you with this little like feather duster in your hand just kind of like flicking away.
Yeah.
And you have these moments of like, what am I doing? You know, like this is kind of weird. And some people think of art as something relaxing, which it definitely can be.
Yeah.
And you know, they say art as like a form of therapy, but he says if you want to drive someone crazy, the thing to do is to get them painting. Yeah, you know, because from his perspective as a professional artist, you're your biggest critic, you know, like we said.
Right.
So you can kind of go crazy very easily doing art full time. So that's probably been my biggest kind of hurdle to get over.
Okay.
And it's something I still struggle with even today.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I watched that video, because he sort of talks through it and talks about how he deals with it and everything.
So you don't see it as like an outlet for self-expression. You see it more of a...
Oh, I definitely do.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's also like an outlet for... What is it? I don't know.
I just think there's some difficult things about it, you
Yeah.
know? And that's one of the hard things is you don't get that interaction that you're talking about. I mean, there are ways to do it.
Yeah.
But the way that I'm doing it, it's very much isolated. And so that's tough.
Let me tell you a story about me going from a commercial gym. I was working at Gold's Gym maybe 2 years ago. But prior to that, or the whole story about me being a personal trainer was I went to Montgomery College and I was doing the same thing. I was being curious. I took a weight training class. Turns out my professor for my weight training class was the GM of Gold's Gym, Rockville Town Center. And with my background in football, I already had a fitness background. I just did it for the easy credits. But my professor, a.k.a. the GM of the Gold's Gym, he saw what I was doing, and he said, like, have you ever thought about being a personal trainer? I was like, no, not really. But I was already training people in class.
Yeah.
And he just told me, basically, go get a certification, go apply for a job, and we'll talk. And then by the end of that semester, like within 3 months, I picked up ISSA, International Sports Science Association, CPT, Certified Personal Trainer cert. But at that time, I was only 18, 19, like straight out of high school. And the fitness manager didn't like me. So it turns out I didn't get it.
Ouch. Flipped
around. For me, and when I was talking about that competition-wise,
yeah,
I didn't see that as a put down. I was like, I see I have a passion for this now.
Yeah.
So how do I get there?
Right.
So my first thing was like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? How can I separate myself? And I think the biggest reason why the fitness manager didn't like me was because I was 19 with no experience. But I mean, I had a couple experience just from like high school, football, wrestling. I played a little bit of volleyball. So I was athletic all around.
Sure.
I had two of my close friends. They went to the military. So I was like, what better way to stand out other than, because I didn't know any like military. This is before like boot camps were big. This is like 2010, 2011. So my head was already ahead of the game. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go join the Marines. It's like, all right, I'm gonna come back and I'll be a military personal trainer boot camp guy.
Right.
Because I took the reserve route. So all I did was I went to basic training in Parris Island, and then I spent 3 months there, 12 weeks, and then I spent about 9 months in San Diego for my like MOS training, my job training, which was the infantry, which I also didn't know I was doing.
Yeah. So you went into the military with the goal of being
a personal trainer. Yep.
Wow. I don't imagine many people do that, but that's good for you.
Big facts, because as soon as I got to my reserve unit, like they always ask like your why. And that's a big book that I like to read is Find Your Why by Simon Sinek. If you haven't read that, I definitely recommend that to help
Okay.
you find your reasonings why you do certain things, like especially with art.
Yeah.
They were asking that in my unit, like, why did you join the military? Why did you do that? Like for me, everyone was talking about I wanted to defend my country. I wanted to like go out. I wanted to travel. I wanted to go out and do things. And I'm just like, I mean, I think I probably lied and just copied everyone else's answers.
Yeah,
but
sure.
deep down, I was just like, I just want to go back home and I want to train people. I had a goal already. And from there, it was just like, I got back home. The guy still didn't like me, but I ended up going to another Gold's Gym closer to my house. And I found mentors at my other gym who I'm also close to. My previous podcast, I believe it was episode 33 and 3, Patrick Ochenny. He was number one personal trainer in the country for Gold's Gym. And as well as Mr. Thomas, also from Gold's Gym Rockville. I want to shout them out because they definitely helped me like find my way as a personal trainer through business, even though it was very hard.
Yeah.
It was like, here, my first day as a personal trainer, like once I got my job, the fitness manager told me, was like, all right, go. And this was like me just going through orientations and figuring out what everything is, like how the gym works. He literally said, just go talk to people. But then I was like, how do I charge them? How do I talk to them? Like, I had no business savvy yet.
Right.
But then I learned how to talk to people. And then that's also where I learned communication is key. And I think also to piggyback on what your question was with the podcast, I had to learn how to be a better communicator.
Yeah.
So from here, I just want to get better and better and better because I knew how hard it was beginning, like to imagine being an entrepreneur or just a person in general who can't communicate. Like if I could help anybody, like I don't even care who I like podcast sometimes because I want to see their growth as a person than anything else.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
that's like
Well,
my goal.
if you're having me on, then that's for sure.
Yeah, like I appreciate
no, but
you.
I'm
doing
the
it.
same way, and like I don't consider myself a good communicator, and that's one of the reasons why I agreed to do this is because I'm forcing myself to push
yourself
myself
out there.
out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, no, it was our first meeting too when Priscilla got us together.
Yeah.
As soon as you said you just wanted to help trainers like build their businesses, I was like, all right, I vibe with this guy.
Nice.
Like without a doubt. Like I already know we can build something great here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you certainly branch out into a lot of different avenues. I mean, even with the podcast, I mean, like I was surprised to hear that you even had a podcast because I didn't see how it directly tied into anything else
that I was
you were doing.
Yeah.
So how do you find sort of that motivation to keep going? Because you seem very consistent. I mean, this is 45th episode.
Yeah.
And you do it weekly, right?
Yeah.
So where does that come from? I mean, it's a lot of work to do this. Because I know that I've thought about doing my own podcast or doing YouTube for the longest time, and I still want to do it. But you know, it's hard, and in any business, so I found the same thing with starting Sweat and Oxygen is when you don't have that
consistency.
No, that initial, I guess, like
Your
following
why?
or that way to sort of get your product or your vision or whatever it is heard. Mm-hmm. And sort of getting that attention, basically. So how do you find the ability to like stick with it, despite just like I'm sure you just started this kind of on a whim, right?
Yeah.
And your
kind of
intention is just to grow it from there, right? So like, how did you do that?
Like definitely everything you see here, like this was definitely a work in progress.
Right.
I could definitely, if you ever watched like my first podcast, it was literally me and another, like I had a co-host initially. We had lav mics. So it was literally, again, it was like my laptop. We like put 2 extension cords and a lav mic. Like we didn't even have headphones. So the audio quality was like crap compared to this.
Yeah.
And we just started talking. But, and again, it goes like, I remember I was talking about finding your why.
Yeah.
And because I learned, I think Do you believe in zodiacs too?
I don't know much about that. No.
Don't know. I don't know. I'm a Taurus, so I've always been told like people around me, like I've taken like a lot of personality tests. People put me in a personality test to like figure me out for like jobs or like dating and stuff.
Yeah.
As a Taurus, like I'm very hard headed and like I just don't see anything, and I have like this strong intuition that like I see red a lot. When I was younger too, my next older brother, we would play a lot of fighting games or like racing games, like but he would always beat me. But I think one, because he had more motor skills than I did, being 11 years older than me. But two, he always like whenever we played fighting games, you heard like juggling in fighting games where you would hit someone in the air and then keep hitting them somehow.
Okay.
And he would always tell me like I never had that killer instinct.
Yeah.
And then like it didn't like hit me until maybe high school, where like that was deeply rooted in me. Like because he said I didn't have a killer instinct, and I think deep down I guess that perfectionist in my own body was like, all right, my brother doesn't think I'm good enough, so I always have to be better, or I always needed to do something to get his attention.
Yeah.
To be like fulfilled.
Do you consider yourself a perfectionist?
I don't. Like
No?
not now. I think I started reading a lot maybe a year or two ago. And one book that I came across was Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. That book kind of changed my life into figuring out like I don't really worry about what people think about me anymore. Is as long as I feel fulfilled myself. And that's like the biggest thing right now in the health industry is like self-care. I truly believe. But I don't even think about it because of the trend. I think of it because it makes me a better person. And then I always realize too that I can't help another person unless I help myself first. Because if you don't help yourself, and being in like previous relationships, it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Because when two like people, like half full people, come together, unless they're both like eye to eye and they're like fully committed in like conversations and communication, then maybe. But other than that, it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I got real deep on that.
A little bit.
Like I see if we can talk out loud about my visions about working together too.
Sure.
Like I want to create, like I said, the community. I really want to help artists, and I think I want to hear your perspective on this.
Sure.
As an artist, it's kind of hard to focus on your art and, like you said, and bring a following too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because your hardest part is like selling yourself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the art is really the smallest portion of the business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as far as like making the art, that's only about.
That's also like the
10%.
biggest thing because that's your product too.
It is, but when you think about it, I mean, going back to when I said, I think anybody can do art.
Yeah.
And I think art is totally subjective.
Right.
And that's, I think, one of the reasons that I need the fitness kind of aspect in my life is so definitive. And the reason I love CrossFit is because everything's measurable and repeatable. And I know that if I do X, you know, if I'm doing an EMOM per se, and I do 10 reps in that minute,
yeah,
I know I have to do it. It's either I did it or I didn't.
Right.
With art, it's all subjective, and so you never know, is this good enough? Is this finished? Is this, whatever? You never really know, and you just have to sort of go off feeling. So I think anyone can be an artist.
Yeah.
And in that way, it all comes down to how you market yourself, right?
Right.
And how you build that brand around the art, how you sell the art, more even than what the art is. How
do you envision yourself trying to market yourself with your art right now?
That's one thing I'm really struggling with, is to find that balance of how do I put myself into my art, but also keep in mind this idea of trying to